All right, you guys. So I'm literally just looking at what's happening in the world right now. And as a young person, I guess I can really just pretty much sum it up in one sentence. Maybe not even that, literally just a couple of words. And it's what the fuck. All right. What is happening right now? We have the West just crumbling. Look at what's happened in Spain. Look at England. It's happening to the Western world. Then Australia. I mean, at least I was taught that it was supposed to be a free country. But the more I'm learning and the more I'm seeing, it's not. We don't have the Bill of Rights. Therefore, do we have free speech? I don't think so. Therefore, how does the government actually view citizens? How does the government view us? Then common sense right now just seems non-existent. And then we get to social media and celebrities, they look so skinny that it's looking dangerous. But it appears, that they're applauding themselves over it. So today, guys, I literally got nothing planned for this episode. Nothing. What I want to do is literally just have a conversation and a rant about everything that's coming to the front of mind, because I know a lot of people are feeling, I guess, uneasy and really uncertain about what's happening recently. And so am I. So I hope you guys enjoyed this episode. Welcome back to the Alarm Show. Okay, why does it feel right now in Australia that the answers are so obvious, yet they're not being acted on? And let me expand on that. All right, let's take energy, for example, right? Because that is the clearest example of why the fuck aren't we choosing the obvious option that is a part solution for the cost of living and for sovereignty. Why are we pushing net zero by 2050 when many people cannot even give us the costings attached to reaching that goal? So why are we even choosing that option, which many other countries have absolutely ditched? And to me, it's just leading Australia to become increasingly underprepared regarding our energy security. So why are we choosing that option instead of choosing natural gas, which we're a major exporter of? Instead of choosing, I don't know, coal-fired power on a larger scale? Instead of, in the long run, choosing nuclear, which will provide a baseload power security. And I guess the first thing that people would respond to that argument with, if I want to pursue net zero, why do you want to pursue it? They'll probably just go the environment. And what I'm going to say to that is this. If you actually care about the environment, maybe don't go after Australia, right? Because we produce lots of figures, like 0.2% of global emissions. So instead of going after Australia, if you want the environment, going well, whatever, that's a larger argument, maybe go to China and say, hey, China, all those factories that you're running, maybe stop polluting our environment. If you care that much about it, go knock on a big player's door. Because I don't know why Australia is taking the responsibility of trying to fix their environment when we're not even a major contributor to global emissions. Okay? So literally, it's common sense at this stage, it's common sense. But getting back to the original point that I was trying to make in that sort of rant, why are we not picking the common sense options that would put our sovereignty first, that would secure us in those sectors? Because another one that I feel like I constantly talk about, because I'm like, it's just so obvious, guys, it's housing. It's supply and demand. We do not need mass immigration at above 300,000 people per year. I know that Labor's trying to get it down for this year, but come on, previous years was above 300,000. We do not need that. That is so unneeded for our economy. It's just unneeded for Australia. And to me, the solution is just obvious. Cut the unnecessary demand, which would therefore alleviate the pressure on housing, because that mass demand is manufactured. But instead of doing that, instead of doing the obvious choice, it looks like we're trying to increase the supply, as in increase the housing, and that is evident through the federal budget, which incentivizes new builds by including negative gearing. Why are we doing that? Because to me, with the facts, Australia's livable land area is so small. So if we keep building to try to meet unnecessary numbers, we're just going to turn the Australia that once had the modern, up-to-date standard of living, into a country with infrastructure that would be deteriorating because you also have to look at the social amenities around it. So, why are we constantly choosing the option that doesn't put Australia first and that always, literally always just flies in the face of common sense? Because, I mean, at this stage as well, it's just basic economics. But, moving on a little bit, obviously, I feel like we all are kind of like recognizing that there's a change happening in Australia right now, right? It's very evident that Australia is going through a change because, I mean, you can tell that through One Nation's rise in popularity. We are sick of the two-party system. Libs and Labor, we're sick of it because Australia has been run like that for too long and they have too many just similarities, really. All right, so there's a change happening in Australia. There's also a change happening in America. There's also a change happening in England and as well in Europe. But for here, us in Australia, I think the first thing that we need to do is really define who we are. Okay, what do we stand for? How does the government view the citizens? Seriously, if we want to save our country, we need to define clearly what it is. We need to say, you know what, guys? We're sick of the guilt tripping. All right, we're sick of the shame that is put on us every single day or every single year, sorry day, all of these things. We're sick of it. We're sick of having on Australia Day, having protests arguing about what our nation stands for instead of celebrating it. Because that's downgrading us, because it's undermining us. All right, America. I'm not getting into that domestic politics. I know it's a little bit more complex. However, from an outsider looking in, experiencing the Australian system and kind of just looking over the fence to them, I can see clearly that their Bill of Rights is there to protect their citizens. I mean, really, it's there to protect the citizens against the government. And Australia was formed in, 1901? Right, that was like, quick math, 125 years ago, right? We're a very new nation. And I think what we have to do is look at other countries' systems, all right? Who's crushing out immigration right now? Poland, all right? Let's go have a look at them. What are they doing? Let's have a look at the US, all right? Bill of Rights. Let's have a look at Europe as a whole, all right? Where has Europe failed and where have they succeeded? And then let's have a conversation about where our main values are. Okay, the flag, this is a huge one, all right? And the whole conversation around it being, we want it to be redesigned and all that sort of stuff, it's just blatantly stupid. Okay, because the real question is whether you're asking to become a republic or stay in the Commonwealth, right? All of that other shit about, kids redesigning it, like, no, we have one flag, that's our flag. The question, Commonwealth or Republic, right? It's really, do you want the Union Jack on the flag or do you not want the Union Jack on the flag? So let's answer that question and move forward, because the constant back and forth is just to our detriment at this stage. If we don't even know who we are, how can we defend ourselves? And how can we say, literally, how can we say to other countries that we are a force to be reckoned with? Because that's what we should be saying. But how can we even say that if we don't even know what the force is? Which just also brings me to patriotism, right? Because I think patriotism is just absolutely fundamental to a functioning society. And it also brings me to this quote, and I've said it before, I've said it quite recently, but I really, really like it. Without respect for meaning, structure means nothing, right? And I think that is just so true. Because if the majority of people in a country are not patriotic towards it, and I mean, patriotic just means like a devotion to your nation. So if they're not showing a devotion to their country, they'll just inevitably not care about the future trajectory of the nation. And it just really concerns me when you look around and people are being patriotic and they do show that love for their nation and they fly the flag and all of that sort of thing. And then you have a look at some responses to it, and it's always like the rhetoric of you're a racist and all of these nonsensical things. And that's very degrading to our nation. But I think that stems from what some of us were taught at school. That one-sided story that we were taught. And I understand that obviously, history shows a lot of fucked up shit that happened, right? But we're not denying that. But I also don't think that we have to constantly apologize for it multiple times a year, because that's what we're literally forced to do. And that's what the youth of Australia gets taught to do. And it brings me to this. All right, you may not know, or you may know that we have an account called Kanga that we created our t-shirts for, that we wear in like videos and jumpers that we wear. We have a wait list there for it as well. If we get enough traction, we'll go into production. But the main point I'm trying to get at here is that we created that because it has nothing to do with politics. All right, it's not a right-wing movement. It's nothing like that. It's literally purely being proud of being Australian and trying to just make that more visible and a lot more normalized. To just have a devotion to your country, to be patriotic and be proud of where you come from. Because I think that's really needed right now. And I'm also just furthering this just a little bit. I say the Kanga page has nothing to do with politics because it doesn't have to have anything to do with politics. You know, being patriotic shouldn't be for the left or for the right, or even like, you know, if you're not even into politics or involved or to dabble in politics whatsoever. It should be for everyone. All right, it has nothing to do with politics. Okay, being patriotic should be for everyone. That's what our nation should be. Okay, so I've been talking about Australia as a whole, right? How we operate and how there's just no common sense at the moment. But I do want to change the topic here a little bit to something that seems kind of ridiculous to spin it to. It's a bit off topic, but I think it's really important because this is what the youth is watching. And it's what's going on in Hollywood at the moment, right? All of these singers like Ariana Grande and many other celebrities that are literally just so skinny that it looks like malnourishment. All right, and it's talked about a lot on social media, so I'm not going to have a big 10-minute rant about it. I could, but I'm not because it's talked about a lot. I just want to add my 2 cents here. The pictures that we are seeing and the videos that we are seeing aren't like they're like paparazzi shots on the side of the street where they got a bad angle of a celeb. All right, that's not what's happening. Okay, it's not like they've got a bad angle and they look super skinny because it was bad lighting, bad outfit, whatever. It's not that. It is published music videos where it had a concept. All right, it was filmed, it was reviewed multiple times, it was edited, it was reviewed again, it was approved by X amount of people, then it was published. That is the concerning part. Because you also have to think about, like, there would have to be a sense of approval in that room when they were approving it. You know, of saying like, oh, you look so good, Ariana. You know, that music video, you look really, really cool there. Because why else would they have published it if they thought they looked bad? So it brings me to this. It seems like all of these celebrities are applauding themselves for being so skinny that they look malnourished. And that is concerning to me because young people look up to them. But what worries me even more than this whole skinny pandemic that is going on, and I wouldn't even say skinny, all right, I would just say sickly, the sickly pandemic that is going on, that all of these celebrities just have gone too far. I want to move on to this aspect, all right, because this is what concerns me even more. Take a look at Ariana Grande's new Petal music video. Also, take a look at like Sabrina Carpenter's music videos. It is disgusting. It is beyond brutal, right? They literally, you know, like murdering these people in these music videos. And from my perspective, it looks like they're glorifying these really intense things that shouldn't even be in music videos in the first place. And I was literally sitting there when it got released, I was watching it, and I'm like, oh my God, like I'm uncomfortable. Like I'm quite disturbed by this. This is gross. And then they're all smiling and it's, they should put like horror in the title of the music video. No. But then I thought, people younger than me are like sitting there watching this. And they're probably being like, oh my God, like Ariana Grande released a new music video, and they're tapping on the music video and watching it, and it's disturbing. It's like, just go watch the video. Like, it's disturbing. But I just had to get it off my chest. All right, go watch them for yourselves. Make your own conclusions. Some people might think that it's a bit of art, and it's fine to do. I don't think that's art. I think it's gross. But that's what the youth is looking up to. And that's really all I have to say right now. I just think we're in a really interesting time here in Australia. A lot of things, it's just really confusing as well. All right, because I was researching things today and I'm just like, for fuck's sake. Like I was researching this one topic in Australia and it was so hard to come to the end baseline of what was actually happening. I had to go to multiple articles and I'm like, can't the person doing this just release a statement of what he's going to introduce? Because it was a rigmarole to get. It's very confusing at the moment. It's very turbulent at the moment. And I think, like we said during this video, that we just need to define who we are, because then that will have a clear path of how we move forward. And as for everything that's happening in Hollywood, I don't know. I just hope, I know that a lot of like young people don't really look up to those celebrities as much anymore, but I do know a lot of people still do. So I don't know, maybe check in to see the opinions of young people. I don't fucking know, but it's a bit disturbing. But that's the end of this video. I hope you guys enjoyed. Make sure you give us a like, subscribe, and hit that notification bell, and I hope to see you all in my next one. Thanks, guys.